This is my case study for the Developmental Literacy Lab, my final project. I observed a student named Phoenix. She was a kindergarten student. Some of my observations about her strengths throughout my time spent with her was that she had a strong desire to learn, a very positive attitude, a really good understanding of reading fundamentals, um, just the way that books are laid out, the way that you read left to right, where to find information such as the author, pausing between words, punctuation. Um, she also has good phoneme and grapheme recognition. She understands the sounds that words make, or the sounds that letters make, and also how to write those letters. And she has a good phonological awareness. She can put letters together and make out sounds, sound out the words as she's reading and writing. The observations I made about Phoenix's weaknesses were that she has a hard time focusing and sitting still, especially if there are other things going on in the environment around her. She has trouble with phoneme combinations such as diphthongs and consonant blends. Um, some of the vowel sounds give her troubles. Consonant blends, tougher ones such as CK, whether to use a C instead of a K, that sort of thing. And she has some difficulty processing information, which I noticed while reading with her. Um, if you give her a little bit of extra time, she tends to do very well. But when you ask her a question, she seems to be kind of stumped at first and really needs to spend a little bit of extra time thinking things through. As far as my literacy beliefs throughout the semester, I haven't had any major changes. I firmly believe that anyone can meet their learning goals, especially when it comes to reading and literacy. I do believe that there is a difference in the skills that people can achieve. People just have different natural abilities. Some people have learning disabilities and other challenges to overcome, which makes literacy more of a struggle for them. And a lot of the struggles due to literacy are due to the learning environment. Perhaps there aren't enough resources in that environment to help a student with their literacy struggles. Perhaps the environment just isn't conducive to learning. The student has trouble focusing or sitting still. As far as Phoenix's literacy behaviors, I did notice some minor changes while I was working with her. She became more comfortable in her efforts and less shy about making mistakes. She became more enthusiastic about working with me every week and building on the skills that we had worked on. She really liked practicing things that we had done from the week previous and building her confidence in her literacy skills. And she became a lot less apprehensive, like I said, about working with me, making mistakes, trying new things as far as reading and writing. All of these changes are going to help Phoenix in the future as she works on developing her skills as a reader and a writer. As far as Phoenix's literacy culture, she did have a lot of positive things going for her. Her parents were very supportive. They were very supportive of me working with her for the past several weeks on her reading and writing skills. She has discussed with me that she has plenty of books and age-appropriate things at home to help her with her literacy skills. She has a very encouraging teacher and school environment, and she has a natural love of books and reading. Often when we would finish reading one book, she would bring me another and ask if we could read that. And she loved making an attempt to read to me, even if she struggled with some of the words and wasn't quite sure what was going on. She would kind of substitute the words or make up her own story to go with the pictures, which is great for beginning readers in the stages that Phoenix is in currently. The methods of instruction that I used while working with Phoenix, we did some shared reading activities, some interactive writing, and some guided reading as suggested by our textbook. While working with Phoenix, I was sure to stay patient, practice with her using our skills, work very slowly, sounding words out, and just doing basic beginning methods of instruction with her as a beginning reader. We really worked and hit hard on sounding words out and the sounds that different letters make. When assessing Phoenix throughout this project, I used some different assessment methods. Most of my methods were in the form of formative assessment. There was a lot of observation as she read. We used worksheets. We discussed regularly what we were reading, how she might improve. We talked a lot about sounding things out. And the final assessment that I used with Phoenix was a Clay's running record to see how she did when reading an on-level text, kind of the percentage that she scored, how she was at self-correcting, and fixing some of her own errors. For future planning and assessments for Phoenix, I would suggest that her teacher continue to develop phonetic and reading skills, that she's given tougher writing assignments. She really thrived at writing when compared to reading. She seemed to have an easier time sounding those words out and putting the phonemes on paper as opposed to simply reading them. So I would also work on making the connections between that writing and the reading. That way she understands that we're using the same sounds and skills for both, since she did so much better in the writing than in the reading. I would continue using various formative assessments such as the observation, the discussions with her, and just being patient and working with her while I assess how she's improving and if her reading and writing is getting better. Another thing I would attempt would be progress monitoring. I haven't done this, but I would select a text above Phoenix's level and assess how well she did reading that text over time. We could revisit that and see how well she does, just kind of reaching that next goal. I would continue using the Clay's running record because that does give a good view of how the child is self-correcting and whether they might have more struggles with visuals, syntax, word meanings, and kind of give us a clue as to how we can help them with some of those struggles. I would also use summative assessments, just basically the same tools that I would use to collect data for the rest of the class. Assessments such as the standardized testing would obviously be used to monitor Phoenix's progress and see how she ranks along with the rest of her class. See if I could put her in small groups or if I would need to pull her by herself to work a little bit more on particular skills. For future planning in my overall curriculum, my overall classroom curriculum, I would base that curriculum on state standards that are required. I would also take a look at my students and base some of the curriculum on their skills and the progress that they're making. I would use various methods of implicit and explicit instruction, giving my students a good mix of planned lessons and then those lessons that you can't plan that just kind of pop out up throughout the day. That way I can incorporate more real world experiences, allow them to make those connections between what they're learning and their real life. I would also incorporate the reading and writing skills cross curriculum as much as I could. So have them using their reading skills, vocabulary, writing skills, and other courses such as science, social studies, math. Your literacy skills are really important in every subject, so they need to learn that from a young age. Here are a list of my resources that I used for this presentation and throughout the course. Thank you.